cercado de muito suor, esperança num mundo melhor, e cerveja pra comemorar. O meu lugar, os seus mitos de ser de luz, é bem perto de Oswaldo Cruz, nesta dura mais longe viajar. O meu lugar. Bom dia, Charles Anthony D. Clark, your real estate investment broker, here with another bright idea. Thank you for joining me for the Beast Aspire Council deal analysis. We do this every Tuesday at 12 o'clock, getting you guys ready for the week to start analyzing deals and getting out there in the real world to look at properties. I'm going to take this off now. Thank you again for joining us to Aspire Beast Council. I want to give first shout outs to sponsors by Next Home My Way. Next Home My Way is the brokerage that I hang my license at. Want to give a big shout out to Angel, Jose, Carlos, and all the members there at Next Home My Way. If you're an agent or a broker that's looking to build their real estate business and brand, you have to consider Next Home My Way. They are on the edge of providing top-notch services, top-notch resources, and systems in place to help you build your real estate business. Again, if you are stuck or new or needing a fresh start, I would definitely suggest reaching out to Next Home My Way. You can DM me or you can find Angel, Jose, and Carlos and tag them as well and get an interview. Can take you out for coffee and see if we're a good fit. Now for Aspire Beast Council, got a cool one for you today. Just want to give a shout out that next week, my goal is to analyze a current deal. That our partner Devin is currently working through. It's actually in Iowa, I believe. It's a 12 unit. And so we're going to actually analyze that deal next week and show you in real life, real live action deal analysis on an actual deal that's currently going and working through it, because that's what this is about. This is not just about fantasy. This is not about looking at deals and dreaming of them to happen. It's looking at deals and making them happen, right? This is all about execution. This is all about making sure that we're doing the things necessary to get deals done. Aspire is about execution. It's about moving. It's about moving the chains, right? We're always trying to move forward. We're always trying to take another step, even if it's a baby step, right? We just don't want to sit still, right? If we analyze the deal and it meets our numbers, even if we don't schedule a showing with an agent, go drive and see it. Go drive to the neighborhood. Do something that keeps the momentum moving forward. Right now, me and my partner that's looking at land properties, later today, we're just going to the land and seeing it, looking at it, visualizing, right? You have to actually be in it to make this a real thing. You just can't sit behind a computer desk looking at videos and just analyzing, right? Analyzing is part of the funnel. The funnel is putting me through systems to let me know what my next step should be, right? Making decisions shouldn't be hard. It should be a formula that if A plus B, if equals C, then do, D. If C is not, then do E, right? That's how this should go, so that when you take steps during this, you know what's next. And that's part of what the Aspire um, deal analysis is all about. It's giving you systems for you to ask for certain data so that you can put it all together, so that if result, which is for us, is rock. Rock means you move forward. Sand means you stop and look at it and see if you can actually make it a rock, or you let it go and move it to the side. So it's always having these systems in place so that you know how to run your business, right? I kind of jump forward, but in that, speaking with that, I always like to talk about my business, right? And raise the standard in my team that I have. And that's what we do, right? So that's our motto. We don't help you buy a property, we help you buy a business. It just so happens to be a property. Um, and that's the way we approach it. And that's how we try to help our clients analyze and run their business, right? We don't work with individuals that are just looking to buy a property, right? If that was the case, we refer them out. Now, if you're trying to build a real estate investment business, then that's who we are looking for to work with. If you're just looking for one property, a one off, we're not the team for you. Our team is fit for those individuals who are trying to build a real estate portfolio that is trying to generate extra streams of income by fixing and flipping, BRRRR methods, building a rental portfolio, building a fix and flip business. Those are the individuals that we look for and who we're trying to communicate with and talk to, right? Because you need a broker on your team to help you facilitate that part of the business, right? And we're a plug into your business to help you grow. And part of what Raise the Standard does is we live by three mottos, and those mottos is raise the standard of living. That's our ethos. That is our thesis. That is our main title. That is what runs us. That is our north star. It is what gives us our purpose into doing what we do, right? If and that motto is, if this deal doesn't make our clients' life better, their family, our lives better, our family, and the community, then we don't want to be a part of that deal. It has to be that win-win-win situation. And if it's not, then that's not a deal for us. And that's how we set the standard of raising the standard of living, right? The standard is, if it doesn't meet all three of those criteria, we don't move forward in that deal. And that's how we know we're raising the standard of living, because everybody's life should be better because of this deal. The second one is be better by being better. And that's part of what I was speaking about earlier about keep moving the chain, always taking a step forward, always, trying to improve the process, try to improve the systems, and try to improve the relationships. We're always trying to move forward in how we can improve everything. And the last one is, what's your legacy? What's your big why? Why are we doing this? Why are we going after this property? Why are we building this portfolio, right? Why are you taking this time to analyze all these deals on those days where it's a little bit harder, right? I have mine right above me. You see those pictures? That's my family. That's part of my why, right? That's my little one right there, and that's my why, right? That gives me my reason of getting up every day to analyze deals on days that I don't want to analyze deals, and going out to walk a property, walk land, and things of that nature. So that brings in Aspire. So for us to help you create those systems, Aspire is built around a system where each letter stands for a step in the process to analyze the deal. So A is for address asset. Whatever you're looking at, it needs to be an asset, and it has to have an address, right? And then because of those things come with it. So, we're going to be looking at a duplex today. And the cool thing about today is that it's already accepted offer. So I kind of felt like this would be a cool opportunity to see it in the process of something already on the market and it already have an accepted offer. And most people might be like, why would you analyze something that already has an accepted offer? Because now we have a baseline. Um, Running numbers doesn't help if you don't have a number to compare it to put it against, right? And financing, that's what a lot of it's based on comparing it to another number, so you know what you're looking at, right? Cap rate is a prime example of that. It allows me to look at a 4 unit and compare with a 6 unit, right? And without that number, it would be very hard to understand what I'm currently buying if what I am trying to buy is the 8 unit. So I got to look at a 6 unit and a 4 unit. I got to compare those numbers to see if I'm buying that 8 unit at the right number. And that's a lot of what you're doing and why we said this is a business and not just buying a property. S is for seller situation, right? You have to understand why the seller is selling, right? Sometimes it's um, they're cash flowing, but they're still wanting to sell, right? Maybe they're making a lot of money, but the management of making that a lot of money is getting to a point where they just don't want to do that anymore. Well, that seller, is that a distressed seller? No, it's a seller that is it might be open to other opportunities because it's not like they're necessarily have to sell; they're just wanting to sell, and those are two entirely different situations. Um, so you just got to understand: are you dealing with a company? Are you dealing with another investor? Are you dealing with a bank? Are you dealing with the city? I got a deal right now for one of my clients and going through the city, and it's just been a headache, and it's just part of them not necessarily helping you walk through the process and just allowing you to do it, and then when you get something wrong, they reject your offer and you got to start all over. So right, understanding that whole process, understanding that just because, we didn't get a yes right away, but we got a no right away is like understanding what that's all about, right? And going through that. Purchase price, P is for purchase price and purchase assumption. There's always going to be two numbers usually, and that is what the seller is wanting to sell it for and what you're willing to buy it for, right? And sometimes, you can get to that same number right away. Most of the times, predominantly majority of the times, you're going to be at two different numbers, and now it's figuring out how you can get closer and get on the same page. I is for investment improvement. This is the bee's knees. This is everything for all the deals that we look at because we're always looking at deals for value add, and if there's not a value add aspect to it, we tend to not really look at it because we want to redeploy our capital. And if we put money in there and we don't improve the value of it enough, then it's very hard for us to try to get that money back and go and deploy it in the next deal. Now there's opportunities where like, hey, we just need to put that money away. We don't really need that money back. We needed to let it sit there, let it build and do those things. Obviously those are the opportunities there. But most of the time we are looking to get 75 to 80% back of what we implemented into a deal if it's a burr. Obviously if it's a fix and flip, we want all our money back plus 15 to 20% on top of it. So again, those are what we talked about last week, like having your thesis, having your understanding, right? That's running a business. If you're just buying a property, you just got to like it and say, is this something I'm worth spending for? But when you're trying to build a business, you need a thesis. And that is something that we spoke with about last week on our podcast. R is for revenue. So that could be to cash flow or profit, right? So if you're fix and flip, that's your profit because that's what you're selling. And then you get a lump sum of money. Cash flow properties rentals, you're getting cash flow every month. You want to make sure that is a certain amount so that you can move forward with it. And then E is exit strategy. You should always have an exit strategy no matter what because you need to know what it should be worth at a certain point so you know that you're on the right path or not. If you don't have an exit, then you can't truly calculate the asset and knowing what trajectory you should be on and know if you still have a good asset. Even if you're saying I'm keeping this forever, you still got to have an exit strategy, right? Because you will no longer be here and someone else will own it. And is it going into a trust? Is it going into something else, right? So even buying your first property now and saying, hey, I'm never going to sell it and I got the next 50 years of my life to enjoy this investment, cool. But what is your exit strategy? How are we going to put in a trust? When are we going to put in a trust? Is it going to be bought and put in a trust right now? Or is it going to be put in a business and then we deal with that later? Or is the trust going to own so there's all things that you need to think of. And having that aspect on every deal you look at is what fits the theses of your whole portfolio, right? So that's again, we just don't look at these properties one off. We look at it from the whole holistic standpoint of this property is going to either be part of my portfolio or is going to help grow my portfolio, right? Fix and flips are not necessarily part of the portfolio, but they generate cash flow to help you build the portfolio. As I tell a lot of my clients, you should do the 3 to 4 set cycle when you're in real estate. You buy 3 fix and flips. On the fourth one, you buy a rental, and you start all over again, right? So those three fix and flips should build up enough resources so that you can buy a rental property, put some of that investment in there so you can sustain it, use the remaining balance to go and do the next fix and flip and repeat, right? And so that's a thesis and process that I have for the business that I want to run. If you're just looking at one offs, you're just saying, hey, I'm buying this duplex. Oh, this is a single family I'm buying right now for a fix and flip. Oh, here's a 4 unit, right? You're all over the place and you have no systems. You have no rhyme or reason. You're not making decisions based on what fits your long term goals, but more of what uh, fits your feeling in the moment. So, with that being said, we're going to get into first and foremost. Uh-oh, it went away on me. So, first off, just this is Aspire Investing. This is our homepage. Just want to bring this to your attention before we get started, but I'll get into it a little bit later and more into detail. But this is where all the magic happens for Aspire. So, as always, we use the Aspire Beast Council that's connected to ChatGPT. This is what I allow and offer to all my clients. And let's see if I can change this a little bit. Let's see. Yeah, you don't necessarily need to see me. Um, oh. There we go. That's what I needed. All right. So we're gonna start here, Beast Council. So we're gonna bring in a deal. So the first deal, like I said, I already did some background information, but we're gonna go over it. So this is the property that I'm looking at. Again, I am a licensed broker in the state of Wisconsin, so I have some access to some things like the MLS, things, and other resources. I have a realtor property resource website that I'm going to use as well to go through this. But just wanted to show you some of the guys like behind the scenes of some of the things that I have access to as a broker. Allows me to get deeper information that allows me to, provide better information, right? So, I didn't know I did that. Boom, it went straight to it. I didn't know I did that. Learn something new every day. So here's the property, right? So it's giving me all the information. It also is going to give me some of the tax information, right? Which tax information is going to let me know who's the seller, who's the current owner of the property, what is assessed at, and things of that nature, right? So I already saved that information. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell it. Again, this is why I kind of like using ChatGPT and not necessarily using a straight up calculator. Please use this document to answer A and S, and then stop there, and then I will give you another report for P. We're learning. We're learning. Well, as it's doing that, so here's some of the information. Um, so owner occupied for 33 years. This is a solid 3-and-3 duplex. So just some of the information we have right here. So looks in great shape. Looks like it was real taken care of, right? Hardwood floors. Newly, it seems like an updated kitchen, updated everything, updated flooring looks nice. This is a really clean property, right? Um, Pristine. So outdated kitchen in one of the units, outdated flooring. So Obviously, the owner was either staying in this unit and kept everything the same. Um, this might look like the base. Yeah, this look like basement. So they fixed up the basement, almost a finished basement. I mean, the pictures are making this look nicer. Obviously, old washer and dryer. Um, Great backyard area. This is a beautiful property, honestly. I mean, for 230,000 to have this um, as a duplex and possibly a live in, I honestly, this is top notch and great. So 239. So again, we have to look at see 825. So again, I'm gonna talk a little stuff, and someone might get mad at me. That even as owner occupied, this probably paid off stuff. They probably don't owe anything. They probably this helped pay for a lot of good stuff. I can just tell you right now, this 3 bedroom, 1 bath in this area is way more than 825. This is the difference between being an investor and being a hobbyist. To me, right now, I can just look at this and say they were a hobbyist, right? Even though this was probably a great investment for them, it is satisfied everything they wanted to do. But too many times, I'm coming across people who think they're investors when they were hobbyists, right? Because if they were an investor, they wouldn't know that this rent is too low for what the market is asking for, and they needed to bring the rent up to current market trends. They were probably afraid of losing a good tenant, and that is not a sound business decision, right? The sound business decision is to maximize the return on your investment. Now, this is where people are like, Charles, you're being the heartless landlord that just keeps raising rent and everything else. No, this is Charles being a real estate investment broker, ensuring that you have the resources to run your business effectively and to the and so that you can maximize your return, so you can live the life that you deserve, so that you can reinvest and that you can build the legacy that you're looking for, right? So in with that being said, to me, it's hard for me to say this property is worth this amount when I'm looking at it from an investor standpoint, right? I feel like right now they sold this price at what it could be, and has extracted a lot of the future income that the new owner was supposed to get, but now is not going to be able to get. And I will show you that in a little bit. All right, so it pulled the information as it go through, right? So like again, this is why I like this. It kind of extracts all the information from me. It gives me the living space. It gives me the full bathrooms, 6 bedrooms, 3-1, 3-1 up and down, full basement, lower unit occupied, upper unit tenant occupied. So the owners in the lower unit is a 2 family, right? Um, Active offer, right? So it doesn't establish seller motives, which it doesn't, right? It's just it's on the market, so we know the seller wants to sell, right? Um, so now I'm going to give it the CMA. So it's pulling the summary. Uh, Estimate the rehab. Well, we already kind of saw, but we know the lower unit, because if that's the owner, which has not been updated, that needs to be updated, right? So there's something that needs to be done. Doesn't doesn't necessarily need to be a lot, but I like this. Um, Value add is between 25 and 40. I agree with that. So they're picking a base rehab of 30, contingency of 6, so a 36,000 rehab budget in there. So knowing that I still got to put 36,000 in there, the rents are low, and they already priced it at a very higher level. So now we're at I, so we got to go to R. So let's do rental. So now that we've got this going on, so I just wanted to show you guys. So these are some of the CMAs that I ran, right? So these are some of the properties that it's pulling from. So again, this is a current listing, right? So 3 and 1 has been on the market for 2 days. Let's see if we. So they don't have pictures, which is it always kind of lets you know like it's probably and it's lower cheaper than that. So they're going off of this. So this is a prime example of the disconnect between real estate investors and people buying property. Most agents are going to compare the property that closed near them to be able to have a comparable market analysis for the properties. So comparable market analysis is basically houses around you that are or houses or properties that are around you that's either on the market or recently sold, and now you want to go off the recently sold because that lets you know what actually people are willing to buy. This doesn't work for investors because what investors are trying to do, you're not necessarily buying the property, you're buying the future cash flow of that property, right? So yes, I care about the building, right? Because the building is what produces the cash flow. So I care about, but technically, what I am buying as an investor is the future cash flow, right? If you're buying stocks, that's what you're buying, right? You're not buying Tesla for Tesla's sake. You're buying Tesla stock because of the future cash flow that it is supposed to make, which makes its stock more valuable in the future than it is today. And that's what you're saying. I'm willing to pay for this today because I know I'm going to get this future cash flow in the future. That's what rental properties are to investors. So it is hard for me to sit here and say, okay, even with this one, this is a 3 bedroom, 1 bath. It's 4,000 less than this one. It just got put on the market 2 days ago. This got put on the market 6 days ago, based on this right now, right? Um, I can try to see if these are the same owners. No, they're not. Right. So now, based what I'm thinking is that an individual saw like, hey, this is on the market. This sold recently. Let's see when this was sold. So this was sold this year, right? So now you got investors seeing what's going on in the market, seeing what was close to them, and seeing what's been sold. So it's like, oh, this was sold in the market. This was close. This was sold last year, right? So you have individuals recognizing. So this sold this year. So you have a lot of these properties selling this year at a certain price. So now you have other investors, quote unquote hobbyists, saying, oh, if that's sold at that amount, then therefore my property is the same. See, right here alone, this was sold last year at 2025 and it sold for 244. But the rent was at least 950, right? So like that alone lets me know that this property technically on paper is worth more than this property, right? Because the rents are 825 and the other one was 925. So from an investor standpoint, I'm buying the future cash flow of that property being at 950 and being able to raise it and moving forward. So that is the value that I'm buying today. The value that you're buying today with this one is 825. So it has to be lower from a standpoint from an investor. Now most agents are going to be like, well, this house down the street is very similar, 3 bedroom, 1 bath, as this property down the street, which is 3 bedroom, 1 bath. This property is a 3 bedroom, 1 bath, and it's for 230. So therefore, because these properties are all the same, they should be worth the same. This is not true. Right here alone, this tells me this property is worth more than these other ones. But for some reason, it's sitting on the market for 55 days because they're getting 1250 for one of the month to month for one of the units. So they're more current than we are. And now we just went through that. See, they are more current and up to date with their rental prices than all the other ones. So by definition, this property is actually worth what it is, but it's been on the market for 55 days. So this is something I would look at. Okay, it's clean. It needs to be updated. So this is one of the reasons why I say you analyze deals that already have an accepted offer, because what you can do is find other possible properties in the area that you can negotiate and see if you can get a deal out of it. So right here, I'm finding, okay, something's here. It's been on the market 55 days. If the rents are 1250, if I can get this probably at a decent more price, this is a deal because I already have it's already renting out at the highest level, and then I have a vacancy over here. So this is again one of the reasons why we analyze deals, regardless if it's on the market and it already has an accepted offer, because you can use it to cross reference it and then pick up other deals. So there we have it right here. We ran the R, we got the rental report, and we're going through that. So we have our rental income now, so it should be 1125 to 1300. That means the current property is $300 to $500 less than what it could be. This is what I'm talking about. Like, you can sit here and say you're being a greedy landlord. No, I'm saying that you're leaving money on the table to pay for your future, for your life, right? Because I'm saying 300 each, right? So that person was living in one, so they were missing out on $300 that could have been paying their mortgage and taxes because they were living there. That's $300 that could have been going to their expenses. That could have been $300 that was paying off their electric bill. That's $300 that could have been paying off their taxes. So this is not just about just being greedy and want to collect the money. This is about saying, how do I best run my business to make sure that all my liabilities are paid for? So now we're finna go to E. So what I'm gonna do is give them valuation report. Please use this for E and then provide verdict. So again, now I should look at all this. I'm thinking this, you know, it's gonna be hard to do BRRRR. This is more of a buy and hold. I have to say there's an exit, and then you invest in it as you go. Um, so exit, buy and hold, highest and best use. It's already kind of there. They already updated the upstairs. I think it's just a matter of raising rent. Unfortunately, you would probably have to move that person out if they're on month to month. You kind of got to let them know, hey, within the next 60 days, we're raising the rent. We have to get it to market. Unfortunately, this might be a shock to your system, but this is what we have to do to ensure that we are maximizing. Because at 825, I'm sorry, buying it at 230, you're not going to be able to cover majority of your mortgage. BRRRR, like I said, it's not there. Flip is it's just not there. Wholesaling is already on the market, so it's not there. Creative financing possibly was there, but because they put it on the market, obviously they're trying to cash out all of their money right now, owning it for 33 years. Obviously that mortgage is paid off. Um, if they didn't refinance, right? If they refinance in year three, then they would be again. But this is where I say that was leaving money on the table. That was equity not being accessed. That was equity not being used. Again, this is why I said this is a hobbyist, and there's nothing, not a knock at them. This is just a hobbyist, right? Because they wasn't utilizing the equity that they had to build up their real estate portfolio. And that's what I tell people. There's a difference between a real estate investor and an investor who invests in real estate. Now, that's what these individuals are. There was someone who was investing in real estate. They had semi systems and things in place, but even those individuals can be hobbyists in certain areas when it comes to this. So we have the asking price is 239, estimated market value was saying 236, underwriting at 36,000, stabilized rent is 2,500, effective gross income is 27,000. This is a buy and hold. It's still a rot, right? So it justifies because of what you can raise the rent to and get the money out of there. Um, we got a high points at 76. So again, this is how the system is set up. Anything over 70, it says move forward, right? So now you might find out like, oh, okay, this doesn't really work. But anything that scores 70% above, we move forward and we say, okay, let's go look at this, right? Or we go see. But because it's already have an accepted offer, but I found another property in there, it just now triggers me to go look at the other property. But this also it triggers me to put it on the list and say, hey, if this deal falls through, this is something to look towards to, right? That's part of the other reasons why you look at deals that have accepted offers, because you should have a system in place for what these deals can be for you in the future, if they fall off. My very first deal was a deal that was already had an accepted offer, and the deal fell through, and I was ended up being able to get a 4 unit. So just because something has an accepted offer doesn't mean it's going to sold and sell, right? It could fall through. Someone can happen. They could be doing too much, and that happened in my situation. Um, the new buyer was trying to buy two properties from him, and he could get the first one and couldn't get the second one, and I was able to jump in and get the second one. So again, what the Expire Beast Council really does is that it tries to set you up so that you can keep moving forward and know what your next steps are. Right. So um, the council supports stable duplex, right? Limited documentation. What the council requires is improving, complete operating expense schedule, right? So now you go out there, finance terms. We didn't put any finance terms. That will try to change a lot of stuff, right? Um, and then actual rent roll and leases. So it's just letting you know the next things you need to do to move forward, right? It's basing it off current situations, right? Um, so let's do that real quick. Financing terms. Um, we're gonna do, let's say, an FHA, 3.5% down, 7% interest rate, moving forward, investor house hacking. So now it's going to analyze the deal from a standpoint that is an FHA, is going to be a house hacking, um, and how we need to do it, right? So buying it at 239, 3.5% down payment, you're getting a loan of 231,000, 7% interest rate. Um, Low capital, we only have to put 8,400 down. Um, One tenant is already in place where you got rent coming in. So now it's already telling you after occupying, you can turn this in conventional and then you refinance out of it. The council continues to know the asking price remains close to estimated market value. Um, it's still a rock. So the council finds the FHA owner occupied structure materially improves capital efficiency by reducing the upfront cash required to control a 2 unit asset. The council finds the duplex configuration and document rental demand support a disciplined long term house hack strategy rather than a short term resale strategy. Right? So it got better. So we went from 76 to 83 just by giving the financing information, because now it makes it a better deal, because now we don't have to come to the table with $30,000. Over, because I think it was 36. So now instead of us bringing $36,000 to the table, we only have to bring 8,600 to the table. Um, which now think about it, we had to bring 30, we had to bring 36,000 to the table. Now we only have to bring 8,000. So if we had the 36, now we're at 28. We have a rehab budget of $36,000. Well, now we have the rehab budget. See how that just makes things better and makes this deal move forward and those things, and how the strategy plays a huge part the capital strategy, right? A lot of people don't realize that capital is a strategy. It's just not, can I get the money or not? It's, what can you get the money at? What is the cost? What is the cost of capital, right? WAC is a financing term, but it's the weighted average of cost of capital, right? Because I might get money from an investor, I might get money from a bank, I might get money from a hard money lender, right? All those people are going to have different interest rates for what I owe them and give their money back, and then there's going to be a average cost of all that money put together that I need to pay back, and that's the return I need to get. This is kind of one of those situations of what is the cost of capital and how I could use it. Well, going from needing to put $36,000 down to only needing to put 8,000, and I can still get the same asset, the same outcome, and the same income. That's game changer, right? And that's running a business and not buying a property. That's having a strategy. That's having a thesis. That's having a greater outlook of you buying a property and not just looking at I'm buying one property. All right, there you have it. Analyze the deal. Outcome from this, different ways of looking at opportunities that are on the market so you can see, but then it should help you see what's going on in that market. And then if there's other opportunities in that market that you can take advantage of, right? You saw that a bunch of people are buying properties in that area and they're getting them at 250. So now maybe I can be going looking for those $120,000 properties that I can go and put 30, 40,000 in and get it up to the 230, 240, 250, 260, right? That's what you also can do is like, oh, I see duplexes being bought and sold in this area and they're going from 230 to 260. Let me go and look in that area and find any wholesaling opportunities or deals that's off market that someone might want to sell that their property right now is looking at around 100 and 150. I can put 30,000 in there or 40,000 or even 50 and I can get a nice return and I get a nice investment. I can turn around and sell it. A plethora of things you can do when you find opportunities that you can research and keep your eye on, and that's part of it. This is a area that I'm always looking in. Like I said, my area is southeastern Wisconsin. I'm looking for deals in those areas, and so I have sub markets. I have these markets, right? So because of the ecosystem that we create through Aspire, I'm able to expand where I'm able to do business and what I can handle and what I can manage, right? And that's what we try to provide to our clients and to our members of Aspire and to our broker clients as well. Obviously, I run Aspire with Devin. He's another real estate broker. He's more on the commercial side, but that's the whole premise of why we came together and brought Aspire, which, that's right here. Legacies are not inherent; they're built. Aspire investing exists for ones who show up, do the work, and build real, lasting wealth through disciplined transactions, institutional grade development, and world class investor education. Um, our mission is to build a self-sustaining real estate ecosystem where those willing to learn, execute, and grow can create real, lasting wealth for themselves, their families, and their communities. We are turning ambition into assets and effort into legacies. So we're built this off of four engines, one ecosystem. So transaction velocity, obviously, as I told you, I have my broker license. Devin has his. So the brokerage is our main transaction and where we create the resources and income, because to have real estate, you got to have a transaction, and that's the main premise of us. And then it's the wealth engine, is what really builds the wealth, right? It's the fix and flip opportunities and the BRRRR opportunities, the value add opportunities. That is where the wealth is built, and that's what we say with everything. The wealth is built there. That's buying land and building development. The wealth is in building development, right? Buying a value add multifamily unit. The wealth is in adding to the property so that it's worth more now. The force appreciate. The fix and flip, same thing. Buying it low, putting in the money, and selling it high. And then there's education. Obviously, you got to always be learning. You always got to be understanding what the market is, what systems are out there, what tools are out there, what things that you can use to improve your situation and improve yourself. Right. This is the part. Be better by being better. Always trying to grow yourself. Always trying to develop. And then mentorship. And this is the what's your legacy aspect of it. Right. There always comes a point where you got to grow your team, and then you're growing your team. You're growing people that you want to help out, right? There could have been a part where you were helping out the investor that was more established because you want to be built up. Well, now you're the established person, and now you can help that next person who's trying to figure out how to get their foot in the door, and now you can provide that for them. And so that's what Aspire is built on, is obviously eventually giving back to the system, building relationships, building deals with the partners that we've created inside of Aspire. And obviously, you can check out our school where we have all our resources, where we have a bunch of posts. This is where you get access to all our things, the communications that we're having in there. You also have access to some more of our classrooms where you're getting a little bit more education, more opportunities to meet with us. And then I will show you about our different, um, oops, our different tiers. Standard is $29 a month, premium is $99 a month, and the VIP is $5,000 for the year. So if you're interested, DM me, reach out to me. We are here to serve. We are here to help you grow. We are here to help you execute deals. Um, oh, there we go. And with that being said, um, want to thank you all for joining us. I just want to let this go in the background. I love our new animated logo, the Beast Council all coming together with the Phoenix on top. I'm Charles Anthony D. Clark, your real estate investment broker, here with another bright idea, Beleza.